Today's a home opener for the El Paso Chihuahuas. We start our team coverage with Jesse McDonough from our sister station, CBS 4 Daybreak. And guys, again, the celebrations are not done, not just here. They're continuing in San Antonio. We're going to have a crew out there covering all angles of tonight's big event. Back to you guys. Today, Michael Cohen heads back to Capitol Hill for his third and final hearing. That one won't be open to the public, but he is sure not done talking. Heading outside, though, it is freezing here in North Texas. Greg, I am way more prepared today than I was last week.
All right, yeah, need to grab the gloves,
I just
though.
need gloves.
Yeah,
It's
need
the
the
last thing
gloves.
on my shopping list.
Yeah, the hat and the scarf as well.
And of course, not sure how passengers or frequent flyers are going to feel about this, but the Seattle Times actually posted this article that says the FAA, because of the lack of funding and resources they've been giving more authority to Boeing, letting them certify if their planes are safe to fly or not. Students at Henderson Middle School are getting a special shout out for being one of the best chess teams in the country. And I'm Kezhal Dashti. It's Friday, May 4th. We'll get to weather in just a moment, but first we've got some important stuff to deal with in traffic. It's going to be a mess this weekend on the west side. 5:43 now. Look at the beautiful Dallas skyline lit up in blue for the Mavs, maybe, because we're going to miss Dirk a lot. His tribute did not end on the court. It continued when he got back to Dallas overnight, guys. Remember the MySpace days when mirror pics were the thing and music was all the rage on MySpace? And you would pick songs based on your mood. For me, Forever the Sickest Kid, y'all, that was my jam. But all of that is pretty much gone.
Millions of people still using it, especially musicians, right?
Musicians. It's more of a music base.
So a decade's worth of your songs would be huge.
All right, welcome back to Always Moving Forward. Today's guest is Kezhal Dashti.
Yes,
So
you got it.
I actually met Kezhal on LinkedIn.
Yes, I did. You sent me a message about coming in for an interview, and now I'm here.
Right, and I'm excited about this interview too.
I'm excited too. I'm like, I get excited talking about career and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So Kezhal's got a lot going on.
Yes.
And then I'm kind of excited too to talk about some of your previous stuff that you've done too.
Oh yeah, I've got a crazy career path
Right.
that got me to where I am.
Well, cool. So let's start off. Let's talk about growing up. Where'd you grow up? And
Ooh, so I'm from this area. I grew up in the mid-city, so Arlington, Texas.
Okay.
I was born and raised here in Texas. My parents are immigrants from Iran.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So English was actually my second language, which is hard to believe. My parents thought if they speak Farsi to us growing up, then we'll learn English in school, which obviously we did. So, but now I have another language, which is nice. I can't read or write it, but at least I can speak it. So if I really need to say something in private, I got a secret language essentially.
Right.
But it was honestly I feel like I had a very privileged childhood. My parents were very, strict on education. They kept us busy. My mom had my sister and I swim competitively. So I swam for the Fort Worth area swim team and another mid-cities of Arlington swim team, so Mars and Arlington, for 11 years.
Wow.
So I swam for a long time. I was not meant to be a swimmer though.
Wow.
I'm 5'2".
So you say you swam for 11 years?
I swam for 11 years. I quit right before going to college. My sister actually went and swam for TCU. I was burnt out. It was 4 hours of swimming a day.
Yeah.
And then obviously in between that it's just school. So yeah, they kept us super busy. They were strict. I wasn't allowed to go spend the night at friends' houses.
Right.
I remember by the time I got into high school, my friends were working at restaurants, and I wanted to go work in the restaurant industry and see what it was like, because it was for me, it was the social aspect of it. I was I got to go talk to people and I don't know, meet people. So wasn't allowed to do that. It was very you focus on your studies, you focus on these extracurriculars, and you focus on school, college. It was doctor or lawyer, which one do you want to be?
Right.
I was not meant for either of those things.
Right.
That was the agreement I had to go to TCU. So when I did get accepted to TCU, it being such an expensive school, my parents said the only way you can go there is if you study to be a doctor or a lawyer. Which one do you want? And I was well, I did a law class in high school and I didn't really care much for it. But I was I've seen Grey's Anatomy. I'll be a doctor.
Wow. Wow.
It was nothing like that, obviously. The schooling was difficult. I had more of a passion to be on camera. I think I always had that in me.
Right.
My home videos alone, my dad would film our talent shows and stuff, and I would participate in every talent show I had the chance to.
Right.
In between, I'd have my dad record me hosting.
Right.
So I would sit there and pretend I'm oh, this person's on stage next, they're gonna do this and that, and I don't know why. I was obsessed with that stuff. But my parents obviously didn't see it as a way to make a living.
Yeah.
So I settled, and I obviously went to school for pre-med. I lasted a semester.
Wow.
I almost failed out of TCU. I had like a 1.9 GPA by the end of that semester. It was so hard. It was not for me.
Right.
I was a social butterfly. I wanted to talk to people, and obviously the people around me are busy studying, and I was like, this is just...
Well, yeah, and for like a doctor or an attorney, you have to have some kind of a love for that field.
Oh yeah, you gotta love studying, because I feel like that's like, even doctors, I feel like they're constantly having to study new information, and even lawyers. So it's a very different field.
Right.
But I don't know. I always saw myself being on camera or doing something like with the entertainment field. I grew up listening to Kid Craddock in the morning.
Right.
And I remember I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do when I grow up. I want to interview celebrities. I want to do pop culture. This is my kind of thing. And obviously that's not what my parents thought. But after the first semester, when I almost flunked out of TCU, my parents, I had to sit down. I was like, listen, if you guys want me to keep going to college, we got to figure something out.
Right.
And it was a bit of a fight, but we settled with journalism.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, we'll give you the chance to try journalism and see what you think.
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of how I segued into my field more, I guess, and doing what I thought was, and it was honestly a good thing, because I was very shy as well. So, like, journalism really got me out of my bubble.
Okay.
But it was a lot of fun. So, yeah, journalism at TCU was a good experience. I was like, okay, maybe I'll try news. Maybe that'll get me into pop culture and entertainment.
Right.
Definitely didn't.
Right.
But it definitely took me down a road that I'm glad I went down. So, but it was a really good education. I feel like I got a lot out of it. It's like I almost have a love-hate relationship with college. I love what I got out of it. It was how much you pay for college. And then obviously going into the journalism field, you're not getting paid much. So then it's almost like, oh man, am I really getting the ROI of like how much I've spent, because like those loans were wild. So,
right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a...
Sorry, I like word vomit.
No, that's right. What I find interesting, first of all, is that you spent 11 years in swimming.
Yeah.
But that wasn't your passion at all.
No.
That's a long time spent on.
Yeah.
On
my mom had a rule of like not quitting. So she didn't want to see us quit. So she just pushed us to do something, so we learned not to give up on something. So I get why she did it. But even she says now, she's like, oh, I don't know why we did that. She's like, you were 5'2". Like, there was no like Olympic future at all. Like, all my friends were like towering over me. They were much bigger. Like, my sister and I were the smallest of a lot of swimmers. But it was a good workout. It was a really good workout. It kept us out of trouble. It kept us busy. So there was a lot of good that came from it.
That's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I definitely don't swim.
From there, then they wanted you to either choose like doctor or lawyer. You know?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So you went through all of your high school, you're getting ready to go to college.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, hey, we want you to be either a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah.
Now, your passion was
to be on camera. I wanted to talk to people. I was always so interested in meeting new people, and it's I think because I wasn't allowed to like go hang out with my friends a lot and go like spend the night at people's houses. I was so busy. I had such a strict schedule that for me it was like it would be so fun to get to just talk to people and hear their stories.
Right.
And that's journalism.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
you get
that. Yeah. So my question is that for someone who has that passion and you know and obviously that's your purpose as well.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that when somebody's pushing you in some totally opposite direction of what you know your purpose and your passion is?
What's funny, I feel like it makes me more stubborn. Like it makes me want what I want more.
Right.
And it's like it didn't even stop with my parents, because when you get into TV, there's so many rules. Like something I didn't realize was having to start in a smaller market to work your way up to a bigger market. It's something that it's like college did not teach us a lot of the things that I think we could have been prepared for more in the workforce.
Right.
It was more like, here's how journalism works, here's how you go, like, report how you get interviews, how you do this. But the one thing that I feel like, this is why I have a love-hate relationship with college. I feel like it didn't actually prepare us for the real world.
Right.
Like, I had no idea there were contracts.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that blew my mind. I went into my first TV job and I signed a contract. I had no idea what I was signing. I had no lawyer,
Really?
I had no agent.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's like, I had no idea that was a requirement. And I remember the first time I went back to TCU to talk to some students, I let all the professors know, I'm like, this is something that would really be helpful.
Right.
Because, like, I mean, I don't know anything about this. I didn't know that TV stations are owned by different companies.
Right.
That they're not owned and operated by, like, if it's a Fox station, it's not Fox owned and operated.
Right.
Or if it's ABC, it's not ABC owned and operated all the time. So it was something new to learn.
Right.
But the thing I didn't know about TV going in was also, like, you know, the going from market to market. I worked in this market. I interned in this market here in Dallas. So obviously I had to start somewhere. And for me it was in El Paso. El Paso was my first TV job. And I guess I'm completely skipping a whole big chapter before I got into the workforce. So
Right.
before I even graduated college, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer at 21.
Oh, wow.
So it completely put a stop in everything. I was working at Kit Craddock when I found out.
Right.
I had to leave that internship, and actually it wasn't even an internship at that point. I was a part-time employee. I only interned for like a week before I
Wow.
got hired. So it was like a really good experience. It taught me so much working there.
Yeah.
But when I was diagnosed, it suddenly put a wrench in everything. I even had a job lined up at the CW here in Dallas.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, cool, like I get to stay in this market.
Right.
But yeah, so when I was diagnosed, I had to take the entire semester off because my chemo regimen was every week.
Wow.
And I was on so many drugs that I couldn't remember anything. I had
Right.
I blew through my savings. Because apparently I was buying gifts for people
Wow.
while I was getting my infusions. I had no idea. But I remember when I was in chemo, the one thing I did promise myself, because I was very jealous. I was so jealous of everybody. My life was at a stop. I was seeing all my friends go and graduate. I was supposed to graduate that semester and had to put
Right.
it off for the next semester. And I was like, if I make it, then I really want to have my platform have some good.
Right.
I want to help people. I want to tell people stories. I want to raise awareness, especially for cancer. So
Right.
before I did graduate TCU, my thesis was on students in college who have cancer, like
Wow.
following two people at TCU, and unfortunately both those people passed away in the last several years, actually, from their battles.
Right.
But I remember I wanted to interview these people because I had such a negative experience with my cancer.
Right.
And we nicknamed me Chemo Bitch. I
Wow.
was a nightmare to be around. The nurses were scared of me. I was just not a fun, ideally, I was just not a fun
Right.
person to be around. I was really
Well,
depressed.
that's a tough, situation to be put into.
At 21,
Right.
years old, I feel like I just finally started
Right.
figuring out what I wanted to do with my life.
Right. Well, and then the opportunities just started too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was working so much. The second I was allowed to do internships and go work for like different companies in college, like I did it. I took those opportunities
Right.
because I was like, I know this is the only way I'm going to have a good foot in the door somewhere and not
Right.
hopefully have to leave the city. But yeah, when that hit, suddenly those opportunities were gone because obviously like I wasn't graduating at the same time anymore.
Right.
But when I finished, I remember I got back to work. Like
Right.
within a month of finishing chemo, I started interning for this woman in Dallas who had her own PR company, and she had her own entertainment show. So I would help edit her videos, and
Okay.
I was still bald.
Right.
So like I did not care. I was just like, I got to get back into it. I need to
Right.
be around people. And then I did my college thesis on those two students at TCU who were battling. One was battling ovarian cancer, and another was like in her third bout of colon cancer.
Mm.
And it was such a hard story to do because but at the same time I was learning so much from it myself. I was
Right.
learning that while these girls had so much grace, like they were still going to school. I couldn't even continue. I couldn't even continue school.
Right.
So I wanted to see somebody who had I don't want to even say better experience because cancer is just not a good experience, but
Right.
I wanted to see how other people handled it. And the way these two women handled it, it was just so brave, and they were so, I loved telling their story. It was such a good story to tell. It ended up winning an award from the Society of Professional Broadcast Journalists.
Oh, wow.
So I was really excited. It was my first journalism award, and I had just graduated college. So I was like, this is such a, it meant the world to me. If any
Right.
award means the most to me, that award really took the cake because it had such a personal meaning for me.
Right.
But yeah, then once I graduated, I had a professor reach out and said, hey, they have an opening at the Dallas Morning News. It's a temporary position, but
Okay.
if you want, it's entertainment. And I was like, I'll take it.
Right.
So I took the job. I remembered it paid like $30,000 a year. And I thought I was making bank.
Right.
I thought, this is it. I made it. My dad's like, oh, sweetie, that's not much money. But I was like, it's a lot of money to me. But I just remembered it wasn't TV. It was like so much of, it was almost like an MMJ. MMJs have to carry all their equipment, go shoot, interview.
Yeah.
You're the cameraman and everything. And I'm 5'2". I'm really small. And for me to carry on a lot of equipment, it took so much out of me.
Right.
And it took the fun out of it. I was like, I like to focus on the interview and talking to people and
Right.
you know, there's things we're all good at. And I think photographers are good at what they do, you know?
Right, right.
And I'd rather work with a photographer. But anyway, so yeah, when I worked at Dallas Morning News, literally within the first week of working there, I got an email from El Paso.
Oh, wow.
From a station in El Paso saying, hey, we know you applied for a reporter position, but we really need a social media anchor.
Okay.
And I was like, what's that? That sounds fun. I was like, and it sounds like it's in studio. Sounds pretty cool.
Right.
They're like, yeah, you're just going to talk about trending stories, both in entertainment and politics. And I was like, oh man, you're speaking my language. Okay,
Right.
done. I took it. I didn't even think twice about it. I put in my 2 weeks at Dallas Morning News, which they were okay because it was more of a temporary position
Right,
with
right.
them. So I literally in a week flew out to El Paso. And this wasn't even a year after finishing chemo. So I still had hair growing back. I was shocked they wanted to hire me because I
Right.
looked nothing like I did in my demo tapes. So it was like a really good moment.
Right.
But yeah, I went there. I started working there. In 6 months, I became the main anchor. The main anchor happened to leave, and I was filling in. So, and filling in was also no easy feat. So this goes back to like when my parents wouldn't let me make a decision on my major.
Right,
And
right.
it made me stubborn. I had a boss who did not want me to fill in on the anchor desk because I was so new. I had never worked in TV, really, except for like an internship.
Right.
So she was like, oh, you're really green. Like, I don't think you should yet. And I was like, okay. So then the whole next week at work, I stayed after every day and I practiced anchoring and I made them record. I had the crew record it for me, so I had to tape.
Right.
For one straight week, I went through the whole main anchors. I would practice her scripts while she was on air, while we were on air. Like in between breaks, I was practicing reading those scripts. I was rewriting them to how I talk. And I was like, okay, I gotta nail these because I didn't ask to do this.
Right, right.
I just wanted to take it to my boss and see if I could just change her mind.
Right.
And a week later, I emailed it to her and I was like, please, if you can just reconsider.
Right.
I really want to fill in and I know the show. I know the show. I'll do my job too. You don't have to get someone to fill in for my position. I'll do both.
Okay.
And I got it. It was honestly a really exciting moment. I have all the pictures from when I first was on the anchor desk because I could not believe it happened.
Right.
And I started filling in. And honestly, I think that helped me so much because when the main anchor quit,
Right.
I knew the show so well, they really, it would make no sense for them to go bring someone else in.
Right.
So I applied for that job when the anchor quit and I got the main anchor gig, which was awesome. And I did not think it was going to happen because my co-anchor was a lot older than me.
Right.
And I guess in TV that was taboo. I didn't see the issue in it, honestly. I was like, honestly, I think it could help. Like, he could gear towards the older audience and I can help bring in the younger audience.
Right.
News is news. We just want to get it out to people.
Right.
And it ended up working out. The show was really successful. We were the #1 morning show.
Wow.
And it was fun. It was such a fun gig. But the hours.
Wow.
Oh, the hours were hard because it was an overnight. It was a morning show. So
Right.
like I had to be at work by 2 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that takes getting used to. So
right.
after 3 years,
And have to be alert. And,
oh yeah.
You know, on point early in the morning like that.
It was. Luckily, I'm a morning person, but it's
Right.
but still, it's like waking up that early is just not natural. So, I just remembered I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do overnights, but we'll just keep going until we can't.
Right.
But when I was in El Paso, I just remember my main goal was to come back home and to Dallas-Fort Worth. This is Market 5. It's a really good market.
Right.
Big metroplex and really good TV stations. So I told myself, I was like, listen, if I could do it back then, there's no reason why I can't do it now.
Right.
And I remember when I would tell my bosses, they were like, well, why don't you be a little bit more realistic and do like Austin? Austin was like market, I think, in the 30s. I can't remember off the top of my head. I might be wrong. But I was just like, no. I was like, no. I'm going to Dallas.
Right.
Like, I did not come here and sign a 3-year contract to just settle for Austin. Austin's not home. Dallas is home.
Right.
Dallas is where my family is, and I know I'm that good.
Right.
Like, I know I can do it. And I just remember they always told me, like, no, you really need to be realistic.
Right.
And I still remember it. I know this sounds bad, but it felt so good the day I went in and told them. I was like, well, I got a job in Dallas. So I'm sorry, like, I have to leave. But it was the best feeling because, like, when someone tells you you can't do it, I know there's a lot of people who are like, all right, yeah, I can't do it.
Right.
But my mentality's always been like, if someone tells me I can't do it, I'm just going to try that much harder.
Right.
Like, and prove them wrong.
Well, and I think going through what you did at an early age with cancer, I think that helped.
For sure.
Build your enthusiasm and your drive.
I think so. Yeah, because I would say my drive was just like at over 100 by the time I finished chemo because I was sitting around for so long.
Right.
And I was ready to just get back into it. No, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, you're like, just let me out the gate,
just
let me do my thing.
Let me do my thing.
Right.
Oh yeah, but I mean, when I got that job, I was really happy.
Right.
I remember even coming in for the audition because it was at WFAA. I was so confident. I walked up to everyone. I was like talking to the whole crew.
Wow.
But for some reason, once it started getting closer to like my contract in El Paso ending and me starting here in Dallas, I started to go through a lot of depression. I had like major depression.
Right.
I think the hours truly started to get to me. I was, candidly speaking, I was hooked on Ambien because the overnight hours, like I couldn't just go to sleep at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not natural for the body.
Right.
So I found a doctor who prescribed me Ambien, and I just remember I was on that for I was on that for I think 2 years at that point.
Oh wow.
Which is way too long.
Yeah.
And the more and more I kept thinking about it, I was like, this is so unhealthy. Like these hours are becoming so unhealthy. I was underweight. I didn't feel like anyone cared either. It was almost like the job, it comes with the job.
Right.
Like, and you have to be okay with it. And I was like, this shouldn't be okay. This shouldn't be normalized. I remember I kept thinking that to myself. Right. And then by the time I got here, the depression was just, and the anxiety, because I was like, oh man, now I'm on TV in my hometown. Like everything started to, like perspective started to set in. Everything was just like, okay, I can do this. I did fine in the audition. I mean, I killed the auditions. That's how I got the job. I kept telling myself that. But like the hours, I had to come in at 2 a.m. and then they started pushing it back to 1 a.m. And then they pushed it back to midnight. And then I was like, I hit my breaking point. And I think I will say the thing I loved about WFAA was they were very, very understanding about my mental health. I think they knew because I would call in sick all the time. And I was like, I have a kidney stone.
Oh, wow.
I was desperate to not go in. I was like, I needed that sleep. I was not sleeping. I would go to bed at 4 p.m., but I was just awake. And no matter what I did, I was not getting any sleep. So like, it just like, I think that starts to affect you.
Right.
So yeah, I was calling in sick like every week. I think I went to work at most like 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, wow.
And that went on for 6 months. And finally, like, I had to leave. Like I was seeing a therapist at the time, and I talked to my job about it, and I was like, listen, like, I don't think I'm in a good place. And it's not fair to them either. For me to be calling sick that much and for them to have to fill in for me, it just wasn't the right fit. And I was honestly at peace with it. I was like, you know what? I hit my goal of being on TV in my hometown. Right. I celebrated my 5-year cancer anniversary, like on air at WFA. And they threw me like the best 5-year, because that's when you're deemed cancer free.
Okay.
And it was all around, like, it was a pretty good experience. I learned a lot from it. I know I did a really good job, but it just wasn't. The hours were not feasible. It just I didn't see how this was worth the job. It didn't feel like it.
Right.
So I remember I put in I got on the phone with my news director. She even offered me a job in the afternoons. I knew mentally I wasn't in the right place.
Right.
So I was like, I'm just going to, if it's okay with you guys, if we can just cancel my contract. And they canceled my contract, which is also very scary in news because they can, a lot of stations, this is why I also told like my college, like it's good to talk about these contracts to your students before they go and sign them because they can come sue you for leaving.
Right.
They're putting all their marketing dollars behind you. So, you know, they're paying to promote you. They're going to sue you if you leave. I got really lucky with WFA. They were really good to me. But I just remember after that, I was like, I took a break. My husband was working and he used to work in television too. That's how we met.
Right.
And when we moved here, he went into corporate communications.
Okay.
And so he luckily gave me some time to just relax and kind of get myself back together because your mental health has to be in the right place, I think, to get any good work done. And I think that's either working for someone or working for yourself. Got myself in a better headspace and I was like applying like crazy for jobs because I was like, well, that's the natural thing I can think of. Working for myself was never in the books. My father was an entrepreneur our whole childhood and I just remember I never liked the idea of being an entrepreneur. I saw how the money was inconsistent. I saw how, you know, like having to worry month to month, like what if I don't have business one month, you know, like it was something I didn't want to have. So it was working for someone was the way to go. Right before the pandemic, so it took me like 7 months to find a job.
Wow.
For some reason, going from journalism to a corporate role is a lot harder. No one talks about it, but it's like you have to almost like rework your resume to like how you worked for TV. How is that going to benefit someone in the corporate world? And there's a lot. I mean, to me, there's things that we do in TV that, I mean, to me, it's like a lot of people in the corporate world, like they would never get in front of a camera and just be able to talk. Or just talk in front of people. And I think that's such a big skill to have. But I just remember like, I was applying around so much and finally Container Store right before the pandemic, it was like February 2020. Wow. I had gotten an email, they're like, come in for an interview and it was for their corporate store in Capel. And I was like, oh, this is the place. Oh, I'm going to work here. This is fun. Communications. I could work my way into marketing maybe and see how, because they were going to give me an option to learn in different.
So you were into a totally different field.
I was really like, for a good 5 years, really just, I was exhausted. So I wanted to try something. And my husband, like, seeing him go to work at 9 a.m. honestly looked like sleeping in. So I was like, I'll take it. So I got the job. I was supposed to start at the end of March. But of course, then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And we weren't going into work. And I hadn't started the job. And they kept saying, hey, we're going to push back your start time to May. And I was like, okay. By the time end of April came around, I lost the job because they were cutting so many jobs, and they had people who were working there for like 40 years who they were cutting because they had no money, or they were losing money at least. So I had to rethink everything at that point. I was like, man, my husband luckily still had his job. He was working from home, but I was like, we need a second income. You know, I want to get a house. But that was not easy. Obviously, no one was hiring in the middle of the pandemic. So I started studying for my real estate license because homes were selling, and I was like, well, it gives me something to do. I learned something. So I did this online course called A Civil Agent to get my Texas real estate license that I never used. And I spent 4 to 5 months just studying, and I took the test, passed it. I never actually used it because right towards the end, like right before I was about to have my real estate test, my sister's friend had this app she was developing, a secondhand fashion app.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh, cool. So it was like competing with Poshmark, basically, like is what she was trying to do. So she was like, hey, if like you could help us, like it'd be really cool. Like she had me take some like personality test. I forgot. It was called like predictive index. So it's like they basically, it's like a quiz of all these adjectives. And like you fill out an adjective that describe yourself and it tells you the kind of worker you are. And she wanted somebody who was called a captain, and I came out to be a captain. So I was like, cool. Oh, wow. So I don't know, luck be it. She wanted my help. So I was the personality she was looking for. So I started helping her develop a secondhand fashion app. This is like so different than TV. Like I totally went to so many different things before I landed on what I'm currently doing. But I helped her develop, like I designed a secondhand fashion app that's completely different from Poshmark, and we wanted it to be a fun experience where like somebody like me, who I am not a fashionista, I need to like copy pictures and I need to copy people. So like I was like, this could be like social media, but like you're buying someone's entire outfit is basically what we were trying to do. Unfortunately, the app world is expensive. Had no idea. It was like people were quoting us like $100,000 just to build the MVP of an app. And I just remember we spent a year and a half trying to find someone who would just do it cheaper, and it wasn't working.
Right.
It was a great idea, though, and I still think it's a great idea. And if I ever have money one day, I will totally develop that app because I really think there's a future for it. But
Right.
It just wasn't working. But at the same time, I had a friend in El Paso who I used to work with in TV who told me about Fiverr and Upwork.
Okay.
So now I'm sorry, no, I'm so long-winded. I'm getting into like how I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah, this is your journey, Tank.
So she told me about Fiverr. She's like, you know, have you looked at Fiverr? You could do freelance work there. And I was like, oh, I'll check it out. And I remember I was so bored one afternoon. I started looking at it and I was like, oh, spokesperson videos. And I looked at all the people doing spokesperson videos and voiceovers. Voiceovers was just like, there were so many people doing it. And
Wow.
I started off with that too, because I was like, that's easy. I don't have to get into hair and makeup. And I have all the equipment.
Right.
But then I saw spokesperson, and spokesperson was literally people on a green screen recording video for people's businesses.
Right.
And I was like, this is literally anchoring, but except instead of news, it's for
Right.
it's for businesses.
Right.
So I was like, I could do this. So I bought a $120 green screen and a teleprompter off of Amazon.
Oh, wow.
And I just started getting to work. I created a profile and I was like, let's just see what happens. Because at the same time I was convinced the app was going to do it at this time. Like,
Right.
this was the one that was going to do it. So I started making videos. I was like maybe doing $50 a video. So I was like, it's just a fun side hustle. I'm making a little bit of money here.
Right.
And it was doing decent. And then at the same time, I decided, let's start social media. TikTok was taking off.
Right.
So I was like, I like skincare. And I really did a little bit of everything. So I was like, let me make skincare videos.
Right.
So then I started creating skincare content on TikTok, and one of my videos went viral in the first week.
Wow.
So I was like, oh my gosh, okay. Am I going to be an influencer now? Like, what am I doing?
Right.
So then I started influencing. I started working with brands, and they would start sending me stuff. And at the same time, I'm still doing my work on Fiverr. It just wasn't anything like interesting. I was like, okay, cool. It's a decent side hustle. That's
Right.
all.
Right.
And I'm making a little bit of money here, but maybe the social media is where it's at. I'm looking at influencers who are like making bank,
Right.
like just talking about stuff they love.
Yeah.
But the more and more I did that, I was like, this is a saturated market. Man, there were so many people. There are so many people who are makeup influencers. There are so many people who are skincare influencers. And then with skincare, I'm not a dermatologist.
Right.
So there's only so much information I can honestly give without it being unethical. Because I don't want to pretend to be something I'm not.
Right. Right.
So part of me started pulling back a little bit on that. And then I convinced my husband, I was like, listen, maybe we should try this Fiverr thing actually together, because he was going to leave his job for my influencing thing, which now we always look back at it and we laugh because we're like, he was going to quit his job because I had 15,000 TikTok followers and
Wow.
we thought we made it.
Right.
So I just like, it's laughable now. But I remember
back then, that was still a lot.
back then it felt like a
Yeah.
lot. So I was like, yeah, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe if I get another viral video, like I can be one of those like million follower people, like who knows? But it's a chance, you just take a chance on something.
Right.
But I convinced him to also do Fiverr with me. I was like, you are an anchor too. You should get on the green screen. Let's just make you a profile and see what happens.
Right.
So I made him a profile. He started getting some orders too. My husband also has a very good business brain. He's constantly reading about businesses, how to like run one, what to do with one. And it's he started looking at our pages and he was like, we got to up our prices. Like it's
Yeah.
just like, that's why we're getting cheap clients, because we're charging cheap prices.
Right.
So once we started like upping our price, we were getting better clients and we were dealing with better businesses, and it was so fun. Like we got busy by last summer, like that took off and
Right.
social media started slowing down, and we were like, you know what? There's not a lot of people in this market, and there's a lot of people in the influencer market.
Right.
That can just be a fun like hobby. I like it as like a free time, as a thing I do on my free time, where I'll post about skincare and I'll share something I like with my followers.
Right.
But I was like, this is something we could easily take what we did for news, and
Right.
now we could do it for ourselves. And honestly, that's how we started Dashti Media. So last summer, once Fiverr started Fiverr takes like 20% too of your earnings.
Mhm.
So as much as we love Fiverr because it brings you so much business, you lose so much of what you make. So we were like, well, maybe we should also start our own business. And the thing with Fiverr is, and I don't think, this is something we started to figure out, is Fiverr actually is just teaching you how to be a
Right.
business owner. And it's something like, because I would have never been an entrepreneur. I would have never done that stuff because I saw my dad do it. It looked way too hard. You know, we didn't have health insurance because of it. Because of, I mean, as a business owner, it's a lot harder to like have all those things.
Right.
And the more and more I was looking at Fiverr, I was like, you know what? This is literally like a cheat code. It's not even just spokesperson. Like, people can go and become a social media marketer, a virtual assistant. There are people that, like, I've seen supply chain even on Fiverr, and people can go do freelance. What they're currently doing for another company, they could literally do it for themselves on Fiverr and learn how to be your own business owner and learn how to like handle clients, how to handle your own image. And that's the thing I really enjoy now so much about what we do is, instead of having like a news station or a company that owns us, they own our name, they own our branding, what they tell us to do, we have to do because they own us essentially. That's what we're signing in these contracts. Suddenly nobody owns us, and it's like we have control now over our branding and our name, and we can say no to something if we feel uncomfortable and if we don't want to put our face on it. So it's been a complete like 180 kind of from what we did, but it's like we took the skills we learned from working in television and working as a journalist to now doing it for businesses, and I gotta say it's so much fun. Like, there's so many businesses, and like now when my husband and I, when we drive around, we look at all these businesses and we're like, look how many business owners are in this country. That is something that I love so much about this country, especially American. That's why my parents came here. It's the opportunity you have in this country. But I think more so now it's the internet. Like, the internet has just given us, I mean, like, you have a YouTube channel, you know, and I think like YouTube is one of the greatest monetization platforms. I mean, that's what we've been talking about going into YouTube next. It's just, there's so much opportunity on the internet, and I very much believe this is a creator economy. I've heard people say it's not, but I argue it is. Because creators have so much more power today than they did before. They have the whole world at their fingertips, like on a computer. Like, I work with companies all around the world. I just did business with a company in Australia. So it's like, there's just so many more opportunities online. You don't have to be stuck to just one person or one company, you know? So it's...
And I agree with that. Like, when I first started, I started public access television. You know, I was 18 years old.
Wow.
My uncle suggested that, you know, I try public access.
I
remember my first time going on live.
What was it like?
We had oh my gosh.
The first time live is always like a rush.
So we had 5 minutes to tell kind of what our show was going to be about. And I finished like in 30 seconds.
It's like you talk so fast.
Like, and you're like, you don't realize, and in your lives, you can't stop anything. It was
live TV.
That right there is probably and all my friends are watching, you know.
Oh no.
So that was not a good experience, but I ended up doing a hip hop show.
Very cool.
So we went and we filmed our own videos, our music videos.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that show ended up lasting. It was in Chicago, when I was in Chicago.
Oh, very cool.
I moved to Texas, and the show still aired a year after I left.
So is it just in the Chicago market, or was it?
Was, so it was just local. So
it was local. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so the way that show went was the people there just kept requesting the same show.
No way.
And so I called them back, and I'm like, hey.
It was a hit.
Yeah, I was like, can I have a copy of the show? Because I'm going to start doing it, you know, here in Texas. And they're like, dude, we played that show so many times that we recorded over it. We had to tell them.
They lost all your stuff?
Yeah, they just got so tired of playing it for a year that they just recorded over it. And I was like, nah.
No, it's like all your work.
Right? But then, you know, I met a group here. Yeah, we produced, we got onto public access here, and we did a lot of stuff here.
So did you do hip hop here then too?
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
So I was producing a group called Jesus and the Hip Hop Gangsters. And there was these gang members who ended up getting saved, and they started doing Christian rap.
I love that.
So we did a lot of street ministry stuff, went to boys' homes, and we did a lot. So, but I talked to them today, and I'm like, if we had the opportunities then that's, you know, available now, I mean, it would have been huge.
I swear, I think this like social media and the internet have changed everything.
Right.
It's so much easier to get content out.
Exactly.
So yeah, like with your hip hop show, like yeah, seriously, if you put it on the internet now, imagine like.
Right.
And I would argue it would do really well because I feel like the 90s Y2K era is making a hard comeback right now.
Right,
so this is the time.
Right, and it was innovative then.
Yeah.
So, to be able to do it now, with the platform being what it is where, like we got the interview coming up next week and with the group out
you're not tied down here anymore.
Yeah. So, this, like I said, when we started, everything was local. Yeah. You just reached your local area. Now, you get on YouTube and you're all over the world.
You can broadcast to anyone, and this is something I argue to a lot of my TV friends, the ones who are still in the industry, and even the ones who have gotten out and who will tell me like, Kezhal, I kind of miss it. Like, part of me thinks I should go back, and I'm like, why do you need to go back though? Like, you could literally pull out your phone right now, and give the news on TikTok, or on Instagram Reels, or on YouTube.
Right.
And you could be credible. You worked at a news station already. Like, you have that credibility behind you. It's what you make of it.
Right.
I've seen so many former journalists already on TikTok who have millions of followers themselves just by telling the news. They're not hyper local anymore. And that's the thing. Like, you don't have to just tell the news to your local community. You have a way bigger audience now that you can reach to, and you have then again control over your name and your brand, which is and then the pay, I'm sorry, like the pay in TV is outrageous. It's so little for what you're doing, and now they're not making as much money. They're losing advertisers because of social media, the internet, and streaming. That I would argue that I just don't see a future in your traditional TV news or your traditional TV outlet. Yeah. It's online. If you're not online now. Yeah. Oh yeah. Look, movies, like some blockbuster movies are on HBO Max already. Like, they release them at the same time on streaming because they know that movie theaters are, at some point, they're going to become obsolete.
Right.
So if you're not on the internet now, I would argue get on it and take advantage of it.
I agree, because I think this is the new wave of doing things.
Big time.
And then it opens the door for anybody.
Yeah. And I mean, and you're not, again, stuck local. Like, your clientele could be worldwide.
Exactly.
Like, that to me, that's so much more valuable. There's so much more value to that.
Well, and then you're not trapped into a specific time either.
No.
So, like back when we were growing up, you went to watch your favorite show.
Yeah.
It's Friday at 7 o'clock.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
No, now you can DVR things. What I love too now with streaming, it's like, oh, it drops on this day, so I can watch it whatever time I want.
Exactly.
Like when I get home from work, if it's at noon or at 5, whatever, like, I could watch it when I want. No, I totally agree with that. And then you're talking about hours, and it just reminds me, I'm like, yeah, I don't have to wake up at 3 a.m. anymore to do what I love doing. I don't have to. There's no reason to.
And I think it's a great idea too, because for your news anchor, because that you have that background, you have that experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you have people right now who's giving the news who has no experience. They have no background.
Exactly.
And it's pretty much not giving the news, giving their opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah, so to have somebody who's creditable, who's already, you would already have your following because you already had people that
and then I'll
watch your
create
show.
A bigger following then with people who want to, like, the news to me is just, it's not just local. It's not like, yes, what happens locally is so important for everyone to know. I do think that people do need to know what's happening around them. I'm not at all saying, like, don't listen to the news, don't watch the news. To me, news is now, you can get it on your phone, though. I don't need to go to my TV. I don't even have cable. Like, I can't tell you the last time I watched local news.
Right.
Truthfully, I haven't. If I want to catch up on my local news, I'll get on Twitter and I'll go to their page and I'll see what I need. I'll find what I need to read. Or I'll go on TikTok. I really love TikTok. I think it's... I've even seen stories already that are saying, like, the reason Netflix has already lost so much money in Q1 is because TikTok has become the app that people are going for entertainment. It is... I mean, it gives you all the fun you need. Like, you're just constantly swiping, you're getting entertainment. And it's what you make of it, too, on your For You page. Like, if you want to see a lot of good news, you can get your algorithm to just show you stuff like that. Like, I think it's foolish not to take advantage of it. I think it's like, and I personally will never sign a contract again.
Right.
There's no way I will sign myself to a company for several years when I know that, I'm sorry, the power's in my hand now. The talent has the power, and they should take advantage of it. Man, this is the time. Like, so that's what I would argue. I don't know how much the TV world's going to love that I say that, but TV news people should. They should take that and do their own thing because they're capable. Like, not everybody can get on camera and talk. So, I think it's something to take advantage of.
Cool. Somebody who's wanting to go down this path.
Yes.
With all the experience that you've had, all the things that you've gone through, what would you recommend? How would they, for them to start, and things that they should be looking out for?
I think if, let's say like you're in high school, get on Fiverr. You only have to be 13 or older. I mean, I'll get your parents' permission, but like you only have to be 13 years old to get on Fiverr to start working. And if you're like somebody like us who is a creative, who likes to do audio production, video production, there's no reason you can't do it now. Because I do think, I don't want to say college isn't necessary. My mom hates when I say this, but I feel really convicted in this. I know I wouldn't have had what I had now without college, but to me, college has become a business. College, you don't need to go to TCU, you don't need to go to UT Austin. I say go to a cheap college, get your basics, get your journalism degree if you have to from a community college, and if you have to transfer, don't spend the money because the ROI is not there for TV news stations. And if you want, go to a TV news station, get your experience. If like, because I know the reason I'm also successful is because I had that TV background. And I'm using that to market myself, and I know how much it helps. So, because the first couple of years it's okay to sacrifice a little, but I don't see the long-term need to stay with someone. I think that with what we do, like, you could do it for anyone on your own. Freelancing is, I think this is the era of freelancing and the creator economy, like take advantage of it. Like, and Fiverr teaches you so much. That's why I push Fiverr and Upwork and those websites. Even ahead of college or while you're in college, do it because it gives you experience. And I mean, being in front of the camera or being behind the mic, it just takes practice. It's just repetition. It's muscle memory. It's once you have to get yourself used to doing it over and over again, and you could start anytime. I mean, we all have phones, so.
And I completely agree with that too, because not only is college expensive, and because I went to college too. And I think you're spending a lot of money taking courses that you don't need to take, which wastes time. And then the other thing is that the software is so readily available now.
It is.
That and it's so easy to use. You could train yourself on this software.
I'm sorry, kids are working TikTok and all these stuff way better than us. So I would argue they could probably even do it way better than we can. Like, they have more knowledge of this stuff than we do.
So, and like you said, it's just a matter of just getting in front of the camera or behind the computer, depending on what it is that what position in this field you're trying to get into. If it's hosting, if it's editing, photography, whatever it is, the software's there.
Oh yeah, it's all there.
The media's there.
It's all there. You don't need someone anymore. Like to me, you don't need an employer. I do see why. I mean, there are cases, of course, you would need an employer. I'm not saying like don't go get a job. Like don't put yourself in a predicament where you can't have money or put food on your table. But there's so many ways to make money on the internet now that's why I don't see the need. Like. And to me, when I say like I've worked with big companies online, to me those are bigger than working for any TV station. TV just has this like appeal, I think, to people. Like they look at TV, they're like, oh, you're on TV. Oh, this must be a big deal. But it's like, no, it's not worth it if you're not getting paid what you're worth. That matters so much. And if they're going to lock you in for 3 years and give you a cost of living adjustment, and this is it's something that bothers me because I'm like, they're giving you like maybe a $1,000 raise a year. That's not keeping up with inflation. That's not keeping up with the day to day. Especially right now. Like I had a friend who told me that she was offered a producer gig. I won't say for how much, but they wanted to lock her in on a 2-year contract. And I'm like, girl, no. 2-year contract at that price or at that salary, I was just like, I mean, I just paid $40 in gas. We're in Texas too. Like this is just Texas. Like I don't see how it's feasible anymore for people to. I don't see how people can afford to live anymore working for someone else. But if you can sacrifice it for a year, and if you want to get that experience and then to do it on your own, you can. But I think anybody can get a really, really good experience on the internet. I mean, it's just wild how much is available.
And then, you talk about Fiverr. I think that's a great spot to start too.
Such a good spot.
Yeah.
Have you used it before?
Yeah, that's where my logo comes from.
Oh, well then there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like the people on there, there's so many creatives. Like you could create a business off of Fiverr. I mean, have someone build your logo, make your backgrounds, make anything like.
And that's what I was saying too. Is like anything that you're trying to do, there's avenues for it.
Oh yeah, there's so many.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many.
And like Fiverr's like a great one. Because that's where I get my logos from.
Yeah.
Almost anything that I need, business-wise, business cards, anything for all the stuff for like websites. And,
yes, it's all available.
Yeah.
I mean, you can build your own website now too.
Yeah,
You have
pretty
Fiverr.
cheap.
So cheap.
Yeah.
You have Fiverr for freelance. You have Canva, which I mean, like you could be your own graphic designer now.
Right.
You can offer a graphic design service, honestly, on Fiverr and just go use Canva templates. It's like, I see people do that and I'm like, that's such easy money. It's wild. Like, there's so many good avenues.
I actually just was playing around with Canva yesterday.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so it's like you got a free trial.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to play around and try to create thumbnails.
Oh yeah, it's so easy. They make it so because they have it templated.
Right.
And I mean, I know you could even use it for free, and I think their monthly is like $12 a month.
Yeah.
But what you get out of it is just like, it's your whole business. Honestly, like you can make it your whole business. Just like do stuff on Canva. There's AppSumo. I don't know if you've heard of that. AppSumo is like, because I'm becoming like a tech nerd now.
Right.
But like they have so many cool software. So like if you're a creator, but they have tools to where you can have like your own like set up as a host, like where you can control everything like you would like as a director would in a booth at a TV station. You could just do it all on a software that they sell you for maybe $100.
Right.
Like it's wild. So it's like there's so many tools out there for you to just do your own stuff from home.
Right.
So. But
I mean, there's so many of those programs out there.
Man.
And they're relatively cheap. I mean.
Very. Yeah.
Yeah. So. It's a lot cheaper to college.
A lot cheaper than college.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was paying. I think at the end with TCU was like $30,000 a year. That's just, to me, it's like it's a business, like, and that's where I get frustrated. And there was a documentary on Netflix about it was that college scandal with all the celebrities who were basically cheating SAT scores to get their kids into the good colleges. But they made a really good point. If you haven't seen that documentary, I think it's totally worth watching because I think the messaging in it was so good. It was like they were arguing, why are people so worried about going to these big colleges that are just marketing off their name? That's literally what you're paying for, because everywhere I've gone, no one has really cared that I went to TCU.
Right.
No one cares. At this point, now that I'm my own business owner, no one knows and no one asks me.
Right.
So it's just go to a community college. There are so many cheap colleges actually out there, but people are so focused, and this is also schooling. I also think like our school systems teach us, like they tell us about these big universities. It's like they're trying to get us to go to these big schools that are just wildly expensive. And I think some degrees you do need to go to college, like to be a doctor, to be a lawyer. I get it.
Right.
But to be a journalist, I don't see the need for a 4-year degree. I truly don't. It's required for some jobs, so if you have to, like, I don't want to tell someone don't go to college, but weigh your options and see what's the best one. Like, see what the mold you fit in, I guess. Like, not everyone needs to spend and go pull out a loan. Like, the way that banks just hand out loans to 18-year-olds for college I don't think it's okay.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing too is look for opportunities. Like, you were able to get exactly the internships. Be able to go work in like companies in El Paso. And, and then Kid Craddock.
Yeah. It's all about who you know. Internships, like if you're in college or in community college, it doesn't matter because I know they take interns anywhere, but interning is like, I think, the best thing you can do. You're going to meet the right people, and then when it comes time to graduate or you need a job, now you have connections. It's like, it's easy networking, and it teaches you the trade. For me, I was always much better at learning by doing. Like, I'm not someone who could sit in a classroom and just like have tons of information just thrown at me and go do something. No, I learned from doing. And that's something I learned. Like my first internship was at, well now it's iHeart, but it used to be Clear Channel. Yeah. And I worked for Lone Star 92.5. I learned so much from that internship. Like it was so hands-on. Like they were teaching me how to edit audio, something they weren't teaching me that in school.
Right.
So it was like I was learning things out in the work world that I know school is not. That's why I think that's where I get frustrated with school, because I'm like, I'm paying $30,000 a year. I mean, I would rather they would teach me all this stuff so I wouldn't have to. But these internships are really vital, because like that Kid Craddock internship turned into a job for me, like really fast.
Right.
So and then I interned at NBC5. That was another area where I got some knowledge. CW I interned at, and then it potentially was about to become a job.
Right.
So it was just like internships. If I could stress anything to kids today, it'd be like, get those internships and take advantage.
Right. And the places you're mentioning, those are huge. I mean,
yeah.
Going into NBC.
Oh yeah.
CW.
I didn't even like that internship.
Right.
I didn't feel like I was learning enough. Like you'll know when you go to an internship if you're learning something and you're not. It's not like you're not forced to be there. So like NBC5, and no hate to them, it wasn't a good internship program. It was like they wouldn't let us go out with people. There was like a liability issue, they said, and if the people there aren't willing to or don't want to teach you, then I mean, why am I there as an intern?
Right.
But Kid Craddock was so hands-on. It was like I was very much a part of everything.
Right.
They needed people on. I was even on air once. Like for my birthday, they put me on air, and it was a special moment, because I mean, this is a station I grew up listening to as a kid, and I mean, I idolized Kid. He was truly a genius, and something I do remember about him, and I love sharing the story about him, is because I swear he was a genius.
Right.
In breaks, he wasn't hanging out in the studio with everyone. He was going back to his office, and I think he had a piano or something in his office from what I remember, because he would just sit there and play out new tunes for new bits that he was going to do on air, and I was like, that's a hustle. Like, no wonder he's got such a successful show. Like, this guy doesn't stop. Like, his brain is constantly working, and he'll test. Sometimes they weren't good. I mean, sometimes they were really bad bits, and like he would acknowledge it himself. Right. But like the times that they were good, I mean, people don't forget those bits. Right. Like, people can still name a lot of those bits that they have because you take a chance. Right. And I think that says a lot even to this career path, is you just got to take chances. Right. You got to be okay with getting out of your comfort zone. You got to be okay with things failing. Like, there has been a lot of failures that I've had to get to where I am. I quit a job in 6 months. I made a big deal about coming out here and being on TV here. Right. And I lasted 6 months, and I'm okay with that. I mean, there's a lot of failures to get to, the point where you made it. I have not made it. I will say I don't feel like I've made it. But like, I know that I'm well on my way there, because I'm learning as I'm going. I'm okay with making mistakes. Right. And I look at it, I don't look at it as failure. Yeah. I look at it, the only way to fail in anything is to stop trying. There you go. I think that's a great way to say it. Just don't quit. Right. Keep going. If you try something and it's not successful, that's not the same thing as failure, as long as you keep going. Yeah, tweak it. Try to tweak things and see, till you figure out what you did wrong. Yeah, exactly. Figure out what works for you. Maybe that particular thing didn't work for you. Exactly. And so you got to figure out how to make it work for you. Yeah. So I don't look at it as a failure. I just look at it as, that's a better way to say it than it's a way. That's why we say always moving forward. Yeah. Always look for the way to progress from that. Yes. Because the only way to truly fail is to stop trying. Yes. And it's just not, don't quit. Right. It's not worth quitting. Like, just pick it up, move on, tweak it. It's all about, really entrepreneurship in general is a lot about tweaking. Like, you just have to keep tweaking things until you get it right. But, and even in the work world, I would say that too. But you just do what you're passionate about, but don't quit because someone gave you one negative feedback, or you didn't do good on one thing, or you weren't successful at another thing, or it doesn't matter. It's just just keep trying. If you're passionate about it and it makes you happy, do it. Right. And opportunities are still presenting itself. Oh yeah. I mean, you got opportunities now. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I'm right now. I'm co-hosting a show with my husband in Fort Worth. It's called Fort Worth Today. It's going to be airing on CBS 11 at 11 a.m. on Sundays, and it starts on May 15th. but then the show will pick up again in June. So the first episode airs May 15th, and then we'll have more episodes starting in June every Sunday. But yeah, it's all about Fort Worth. We're basically showing about the arts, the culture, the food. We got Trey Chapman from Trey's Chowdown, who's our food guy, and oh my gosh, like I'm low-key jealous of his role because his is all food, and I love food. Right. But it's a lot of fun. So I'm learning a lot more about Fort Worth. I mean, I grew up in Fort Worth, but I feel like there's so much about the town I didn't know. So. Right. But yeah, that's what I'm working on now, and it's open. That's exactly like you said. Like this is what my job has kind of opened doors for me to do. So, and it gives me that freedom to do all these different kinds of projects.
Okay, cool.
So I love it.
So, and that's what I was going to say is, we were going to talk about what you're working on currently. Mm-hmm. So, and you said it's Fort Worth Today.
Yeah. So the show is called Fort Worth Today. We shot the first episode, I want to say now 2 weeks ago. We actually have our premiere party tonight. Yeah. So we're going to see the first episode ahead of time. So I haven't seen it. I have no idea what to expect. I'm excited. I know it's going to be good. We have a great crew, and it's just everything. I love Fort Worth. I think Fort Worth is such a cultural city. It's a really fun place to check out. And I'm learning things that I did not know about Fort Worth before. I never even went into all those museums. We had our first episode was all the museums. So Nate and I, my co-host and my husband, we were like going from museum to museum doing our shoot. And I was just like, man, like now I kind of want to come back on my own and just actually come in here and look around. Cause like there's so much I haven't seen of a city that I literally like live in. Right. So I'm learning a lot, but it's a lot of fun. And then obviously on the side, it's working on my business with my husband. So it's busy. We do a lot of little things, but to me, it's like you don't have to work a full 8-hour day on one thing. Like you go like work on, like I do 4 hours of my business, and then I do like a few hours of like social media stuff for myself. But it's like I'm constantly keeping busy with things I like to do.
Right. That's cool.
That's always fun.
Yeah. So this is, you said it airs May 15th?
May 15th on CBS 11.
On CBS, do you have a time frame?
11 a.m.
11 a.m.
So it's 11 a.m.
So make sure you tune in or watch it.
Please. We need a second season. We only have season 1 right now. So if season 1 does good, there will be a second season.
Awesome. So let's make sure there's a season 2.
Yes, let's make sure.
Let's make sure there's a season 20.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So
there'll be a lot of Fort Worth to learn about.
Right. And Fort Worth's a pretty good, pretty big place.
Great city. Oh yeah, I love it. No hate to Dallas, but I love Fort Worth so much more. It's a homey town. I also grew up in Fort Worth, so I guess I'm biased.
Okay.
All
right, cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure to have you on.
It was fun talking about
and good luck with your premiere tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to see the show.
I can't wait for you to see it either. You guys all have to watch. Again, we gotta have that second season.
Right?
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for watching the show today. Remember, you are uniquely designed with a purpose, and always keep moving forward. See you guys later. Peace.
If you love Fort Worth as much as we do, then you'll love our new TV show, Fort Worth Today.
Join us as we explore the Tarrant terrain and visit some of the city's most popular destinations.
Go with us inside the kitchen as we taste our way through some incredible restaurants and take a peek inside the art scene before heading out after dark to check out some of the hottest nightlife spots.
Scan the QR code on your screen now to subscribe for more Fort Worth Today content. Visit fortworthtoday.com and follow us on Instagram and TikTok.